Hello friends, my name is Camille and I explore my ancestors through art. This month I will be making Dorset buttons. On my father's side there's a long lineage of people who lived in Dorset, England. And since Dorset buttons were made between 1600 and 1850, it's very likely that my ancestors knew how to make these buttons and were part of the huge button industry that was such an important part of Dorset, England. It was widely made by women, and at one point Dorset buttons were so popular that the women made more money than the men in that community. So the Dorset button women were basically girl bosses. I'm excited to bring this tradition alive as well, along with all the others that I've done so far. So today I will be making 3 different buttons: the Dorset knob, the bird's eye, and the Dorset cartwheel. For the first 2, I will use fabric as the mold, and for the last one, the most famous one, I will be using little rings. So let's start with the Dorset knob. First I have to cut a little circle of fabric. Then I have to make the piece of fabric into a button shape. These buttons were first developed, they were made for stiff jackets. So the stiff linen fabric needed something sturdy to hold it together. So I did a cross wheel, and now I'm back stitching around the wheel to strengthen it. I love doing this. It's actually very straightforward. It's like making a spider web. I finished my first Dorset knob and it's so cute. They're very charming and they're so easy to make, honestly. I can completely understand why they would make these. I love it. So the second one is called a bird's eye, and you use a little piece of fabric, a little triangle of fabric, and roll it into a donut. So I'm gonna roll up the fabric. You would tie it into a little knot, and then you blanket stitch it all the way around. This one feels much more difficult to me because it requires that the gap be so small in the middle. Maybe the piece of fabric should have been smaller, or maybe I should have tied the knot closer together, or maybe I was sewing through the gap in the middle in order to make, I thought was like a hole, but I am not so sure I was supposed to do a gap or if I was just supposed to have a midpoint and then sew around the midpoint. I can understand why this one stopped being produced, because this is a lot of effort for a button when the earlier version took me 20 minutes maybe, and just on my first try. Regardless, I think it's a very interesting button. I think it's definitely going to be the most time-consuming of all the buttons. And finally, I'm going to do the Dorset cross wheel. And this one is the most famous. So this one requires a little metal hoop, and it's kind of a combination of both the Dorset knob and the bird's eye. And I'm just doing blanket stitches all the way around. One thing I find intriguing about this process is that my sister has made necklaces that seem to have a similar technique to their formation. Like, she's really into crocheting, and so she would do little crocheted necklaces. And I'm pretty sure that the foundation of her necklaces are rings. So it's interesting that the skills that it takes to make these kinds of buttons are mirrored in her work. I appreciate the echoes of the past being projected into her current inspiration. I'm almost done blanket stitching the whole ring. Once I'm done doing that, I'm going to put the seam or the little knot line to the back in order to hide that, or put it to the back, because there is a front and a back to these buttons. Okay, so now I'm going to make the wheel. And I'm straightening up the spokes. And now I think I can do the web now. So back one, up two, and back one, up two. This is very delicate. It requires lots of very good eyesight, I'm realizing. After the first round around the button, it's a lot easier, it seems like, because now all the threads are all lined up properly. And yeah, I'm impressed that people could do so many of these a day, 72 of these a day. All right, so I finished my first Dorset cartwheel. Now off camera, I'm gonna make a couple more of each of these just to have the technique really down. And when that's complete, I'll make some accompanying buttonholes and see how they function. So I finally completed my buttons and my buttonholes. Other than doing this project, I don't think I would have ever thought to make my own buttons. One of the things that I really value about doing this project, it kind of re-enchants commonplace items and makes them meaningful again. I see more and more that the people of the past were kind of in a situation where they had to value things that we think are insignificant today. I love having an opportunity to make meaning in every moment, in every part of my life, in every article of clothing, every piece of clothing. If I have a choice between taking something for granted and making something that matters, I want to choose making something that matters. And so with this, another month of crafting my ancestry is complete. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video this month. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. I try to make one video a month. I am excited to continue this exploration of ancestral craft, so I look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you so much for watching.